Strategic implementation and evaluation, chapter number 5. Actually, this is an easy content only comparatively because almost we have done with looking after it with respect to the number of pages, it looks like as if a bulky topic. But if you refer the content, almost 80% of the content we have done already, the remaining three topics. So this first topic and fifth topic will go like a big summary. Like if you have like specific headings or something like that, we'll go with chapter number 1. So vision, objectives, and okay. So if you look after this heading, it's talking about strategic implementation and evaluation. Strategic implementation and evaluation. If you go for crafting the strategy, so how the process is done. First, what we do is we'll completely do the environment analysis. We'll understand where is my company standing in the outside market. So we'll go for environment analysis. Then we'll go for different alternatives. From the alternatives, we'll just go for all the pros and cons and we'll go for finding the best alternative suitable for my company. So with all the resource mobilization and everything. So we'll go for selecting from the alternatives. Then we'll go for implementation. Okay. Then we'll go for evaluation and control or review or whatever it is. Okay. Evaluation or otherwise it's called as review. And if it is not as decided, it's not traveling as decided paths, then we have to go for control, which means we'll check whether we need to carry over the same thing or we need to change. Okay. But this heading is focusing on where? Strategic implementation and evaluation. That is fourth and fifth step. Then we go for environmental analysis, checking the alternatives. All together will be called as strategic formulation. Okay. So we need to come across two words. See, if you check, you can say this is a two-step process. First, formulate பண்ணுங்க. Second, implement பண்ணுங்க. Implementation includes evaluation. Formulation includes analysis of environment. What is my organization standing over there? Then I'll go for everything put together in single term. We can call it as formulation. So keep all these things in mind. So we are going to focus on two things: formulation and implementation. Okay. Then next comes another one concept where I have to link over here because when we say about the strategy, formulation, etc., usually we should not have this mind that strategy formulation will be done by the top management, whereas this layer and this layer is not going to involve in strategy. They are just getting involved themselves in implementation alone. Probably most of the organization, the crafting of strategy is done by the top management only. There is no doubt in that. Most, like 90-95% of the organization is done by the top management only. And implementation is done by the lower level managers and the this bottom level, sorry, not bottom level, middle level will be the intermediaries, like bridging gaps. But what happens here is in this topic, they will be focusing on, you can see that implementation is done by the bottom level managers, okay, low level manager, but still remember, it is the strategy how you're going to implement it. Please try to understand. ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்றதை பத்தி பேசல, எப்படி இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணா ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி எஃபெக்டிவா இருக்கும்னு சொல்லிட்டு அதை ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிக்கா பண்ணணும்ல. So who has to do that? Obviously, top management has to get themselves in. So it's a beautiful content in that way. So we'll go for a broader discussion. So what are the things we are going to discuss over here? Strategic implementation and evaluation. We'll bring the interrelationship between formulation and implementation. Okay. See, when I try to define a strategy, please remember, we are processing this to get this win-win strategy. Okay, win-lose வரக்கூடாதுங்க. அதுக்கு எதுக்கு நான் பிளான் பண்ணுறேன்? See, I'm planning or designing something to take my business to the next level or to sustain in the competition, whatever it is. What is my first goal will be? Not losing. Okay, so we are discussing on win-win strategy. So we are not just thinking about implementation. First, we have to check whether formulation is done right. If the formulation is done right, it will not stop over there. Also, the implementation has to be done right. Formulation is correct, implementation is okay. So formulation and implementation both are strongly interrelated. See, I cannot say implementation is depending on formulation. Please take note. Implementation is not depending on formulation. Formulation is also depending on implementation. That's why we say it's interrelated. இதனால அது அதனால இதனால சொல்லி நீங்க குறை சொல்ல முடியாது. ரெண்டுமே வந்து எஃபெக்டிவா ஒர்க் பண்ணாதான் உண்டு. Okay. How the strategic change is done to the digital form transformation and what are the organized structures we have and what are the hard and soft issues we'll be facing. What about the strategic leader? Okay, what is the quality of the leader, etc. how we have to take over the control. That's about the evaluation, right? We have to take the control and how we're going to measure this performance, strategic performance measures. Okay, that's about review, evaluation, and control. So we'll go line by line because sometimes it might be helpful to read all these things. Sometimes we'll get in quotes. Okay, if necessary, I'll go in line by line. Okay. So when we talk about implementation and evaluation, we say it's a critical phases of the process of strategic management in the organization. You may expect this as quotes question. Okay. When you say implementation, it's nothing but you're executing the plans, and not only that, you're initiating to develop the strategy into action. So strategy is defined. Paper அது என்ன பண்ணும் ஆக்ஷன்ல கொண்டு வரும். Okay. If you talk implementation is bringing into action, whereas you can say evaluation is referring how you're going to measure and assess how far these actions are effective. See, this two lines clearly distinguishes between implementation and evaluation. Okay. So we'll go for various implementation and evaluation methods. These are not normal. Okay, I'm not going line by line. So probably have to see we are going to discuss one heading called the strategic leadership. So we need to know how the leader should be, how the knowledge and skill should be developed. Okay, ஒரு strategic leadership quality இருக்கிற ஒரு leader strategist then it's going to be a beautiful implementation. Okay, so that's about we'll be discussing. Then we'll go for strategic management process. Obviously, we cannot say just randomly we're going to do that one or this one. It's quite methodological, which means we have to follow some proper procedures, proper planning has to be done. See, the definition starting like strategy is the planning is okay. But after you have crafted the strategy, you have to clearly plan how it has to be executed. Okay. So we are talking about the methodological angle of processing means we are actually talking about how it can be executed. Okay. So first what you have to do, you have to develop a clear vision, values and goals. Okay. Then you must discuss and analyze what are the number of things you can have, which means alternatives, which options are most promising, most beneficial. All these aspects come together in a strategic plan that details organization, vision, etc. A high-level implementation plan and key performance measures are also included. When the key performance measures, KRAs and other things on a key results area, key performance measures are included in the strategic plan and they are used to link the team means definitely it is going to give a proper measure for your successful strategy. Okay. If we talk about the nature of the process, strategic management process, you say usually environment is dynamic. That's why the management process is also dynamic. And not only that, you have to continuously go through. It's continuous in nature. If any one major component is changed in the model, then definitely sometimes not because of one component that will be affected because all the components will be interrelated. I may be thinking, okay, digitalize பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னு நினைச்சிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஆனா உள்ள போனா digitalization எல்லா டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டும் வேற மாதிரி ஒர்க் பண்ண வேண்டியது. So I have to work in a different way. Okay. So probably a shift in the economy. We are referring with pistol analysis. A shift in the economy might be giving sometimes major opportunities and sometimes threats also. So accordingly, I had to go for changing the policy and sometimes it happens because of my major competitors changing the strategy. Obviously, I also have to do. என்னால முடியுமா இல்லையாங்கிறது secondary item. நான் பண்ணியே ஆக வேண்டிய situation I may be pushed. Okay. So that was strategy formulation, implementation, evaluation activity should be performed on a continual basis, not just at the end of the year or semi-annually or whatever it is. So it's a never really ending process. Please highlight, you may expect this as a fourth question. If you visualize the strategic management process, many have given many visualizations, but we are highlighting this person's model called as, named as Fred R. David. How he visualizes. Okay. என்ன பண்ண முதல்ல what's the first step? You develop vision, goals and objectives of your organization. Then you check how the environment is behaving. Okay, probably we'll check out the current behavior and also we'll go for the future behavior. Okay, that's a forecasting or prediction. So this is the second step. When you go for the environmental analysis, actually we are focusing the external environment, but not only external environment. I need to know where is my organization standing. So this is the second step, involves where you go for organizations appraisal referring to internal environment. Actually, environment micro, macro, external, internal. So here they are referring as environmental analysis referring to external environment and organizational approach appraisal of what you mean by capability with respect to internal. Then you go for generate, analyzing and select the strategies. Then you implement the strategies, then you evaluate and check whether it's in control. So sometimes instead of two-step process, we'll be defining this one. Okay, from here to here as formulation, one step, from here to here as implementation, second step, and from here to here, it's evaluation, third step. See, he is clearly segregating. If I'm going to topic heading another implementation and evaluation, he is clearly segregating that you just take this as three simple steps. One is formulation, one is implementation, and one is evaluation. Probably in this topic, we are going to focus on the second and third step only. Okay. Formulation is actual formulation on the developing vision and everything, right? Environmental analysis. See, this is the last topic of SM. So environmental analysis we have done already. What is that? External environment. I think chapter number 2 is that organization appraisal and other things. So let me discuss in this angle. So from your chapter material content, this is chapter number 2, right? This is chapter number 2. Internal environment. Sorry, external environment. This is chapter number 3, internal environment. And this is chapter number 1, developing the complete structure. And what about this chapter? Chapter number 4. What's chapter number 4? Strategic choices, what you can do, etc., etc., etc. We discuss. So ultimately, this is going to be chapter number 5. So that's why David model is somewhat more convenient for us. So in chapter number 5, we are discussing the remaining 2 steps: implementation and evaluation. Okay. So many has given different models, but David's model seems to be more comfortable defining our chapters in alignment. Okay. Shall I take over? You see, in this topic, you will get like paras and paras. See, it's very easy topic comparatively because chapter number 2, 3, and 4 alone will go for completely technical side and content based. Here, everything in wider angle we discuss. So, don't see the number of lines of the para and get tensed up. Okay, என்ன கொஞ்சம் tension ஆகுது. Even the பசங்க வச்சிடணும் அப்படின்ட்டு. Okay, so when you see about this process, it can be studied and applied only using a model. And here we are using this person's model called as strategic management model given by Fred R. David. So in case if you expect this question in the exam, in the model, it be highly invited. Okay, yes, sir, no problem. Theory, how you are going to present in the exam or problem, you can just highlight his name. And his name is easy, David. Okay, David model name. So it's widely accepted and comprehensive. So what is the highlight of this model? Like any other model of management, it does not guarantee sure shot of success. Please highlight. See, when you say it will be surely success, see, nothing you can say it will be surely success because the environment is changing. Only at the final step during the evaluation and control, if you take proper measurements, only you can say it is what? You can say it is effective. Okay. So the relationship between major components, everything has been. Okay, so probably this might be a normal line. Let me go for stages in strategic management. Actually, when we discuss this one, we are completely dealing with all the stages, not particularly with respect to implementation and evaluation. Please highlight this very first line. You may get this as quotes question. See, I may have used this word crafting, craft one, okay, it's not like designing or developing or something like that. See, crafting and executing strategy are the heart and soul of managing a business enterprise. Discuss this fourth question. Okay. So when we talk about defining the process in strategic management, the very important thing is crafting, which is nothing but we are talking about formulation, and executing, which is we are talking about implementation. So when you go for developing a strategy and executing it proficiently, we have to check. Besides top management, deciding for formulation, what is their responsibility executing it? Please highlight. So it's not just a saying that top management are crafting the strategy, but who is executing it? Also, the top management should execute. So what they will do is they'll develop a policy on how they are going to execute it, etc. Okay. So it involves developing a. See, we have already discussed in David's model. Okay, developing a strategic vision, formulation of statement of vision, goals and objectives, environmental organization analysis step number 2, formulation step number 3, implementation 4, and evaluation and control 5. Is it okay? Now taking over, first one, strategic vision and objective. This complete summary of chapter number 1. Okay, but we haven't seen chapter number 1 so far. Okay, but chapter number 2, chapter number 3 will just carry over. Okay, so first a company when they are going for defining a strategy, you may ask me, my company is already 10 or 15 years old. ஸோ ஏற்கனவே ஓல்டான கம்பெனிக்கு வந்து ஒரு மிஷன் விஷன் கோல்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்காதா அப்படின்னு கேட்டீங்கன்னா the answer may be absolutely right because without any goal or without any mission I may not be operating but now I'm defining a strategy. I'm going to take some competitive advantage because of the capability I have with sustainability, not in the competition. I have started the business. I want to sustain in the business. In the angle, you use but you're not going to do that hereafter. You want to gain some competitive advantage. So in that sense, you properly define and give the statement for vision, goals, and objectives. Okay. So first, a company must determine what is the directional path they are going to follow and what changes in the company. Yeah, please highlight. Sometimes it might be necessary. I cannot follow the same market everything same. I need to make some changes in the product. May not be product alone. Market may not be market alone. It might be all combined of food. Customer or technology or focus. Probably why? To improve the current market position and also not only current position to the future aspect of prospect. So no strategy is not going to be a 1 day work or 2 day work. We are going to work effectively. It might take, it's a long process because we are saying it's continuous also. Okay. Strategy define what happens so to commit the company to one path versus another pushes manager to draw some carefully reasoned conclusions. Conclusions on what? How to try to modify. Please highlight. So you can take all this as vocabulary spark. Okay. How you're going to try to modify the company's business makeup and also the market position. So what the top management will do is they'll completely go for checking the views and what is the company's direction. They'll come for a conclusion and what is the market, etc., etc. And they constitute something called as not just a vision. ஏன்னா company 10 வருஷம் 10 வருஷம் 100 வருஷம் ஆப்ரேட் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு அதுக்கு விஷன் எல்லாம் இருக்காது but we are here defining with respect to the strategic vision. So you'll be requested with this word எழுதிருக்கீங்களான்னு பார்ப்போம் strategic vision. So probably it will be telling what is the management aspiration and how it highlights a particular direction, what is the strategic path over there and everything. Okay. So when you go for clearly articulating, please highlight. How we say strategy is crafted, not just developed or planned. Likewise, when we say or when we use the strategic vision, we say it's articulated. Articulated path பண்ணது. Okay. Like even key details are taken because it's a vision of my company. Vision means what? Remember what is vision? Vision. Vision means what I will be at the later period. Probably you will have a look of the future of your company. Vision means how you are going to reach over them. So it will be properly articulated. Which the minute details will be taken care of. Okay. And it will help to steer the energies of the company personnel in a common action. Company personnel. See, personnel means the HR. We are talking about HR. See, probably you might be aware. I'm just highlighting. HR personal சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா personal we are talking about the management here. Okay. Then we'll go for vision and strategic intent. So this is normal only. We have to be clear about what you're going to see in the organization, how it's been expressed in terms of statement. So when we say vision, it's formed as a statement. Okay. And this is important not only for external stakeholders, but also other managers in the organization. Who are the other managers we are focusing here? This level and this. Okay. So they need to be clear what's my organization seeking and what they are expecting from us. ஸோ சம்பளம் கொடுத்தாங்க வேலை செஞ்சோம் அப்படின்னு இல்லாம அவங்க நம்ம கிட்ட எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்றாங்க இது ஸோ அதுக்கேற்ற மாதிரி ஒர்க் பண்ணுவோம் டெஃபினெட்லி சி இப்பதான் பாத்தீங்கன்னா லைக் இப்ப இருக்கிற கரண்ட் ஜெனரேஷன் ஆர் சம் பாஸ்ட் 10 years வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒர்க் இன் 3 years or 4 years in a company then shift somewhere ஸோ ஒரு 10 வருஷத்துக்கு 4 கம்பெனி மாத்திருப்பாங்க ஓகே I have my own cousins. They work in different fields, maximum IT. அது தவிர different fields இருக்கு அவங்க எல்லாருமே வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா like 2 years 3 years they'll be shifting. Okay. Whereas if you ask somebody around some 50 or 55 years old, அவங்ககிட்ட கேட்டீங்கன்னா குப்பை கொண்டாந்து அந்த கம்பெனி தான் சொல்லுவோம் because once they finish at 21 years of age யூஜி முடிச்சுட்டு போனீங்கன்னா ஒரு கம்பெனி அங்கிருந்து level by level probably they might have been a manager or some particular designation will be there so அவங்க வந்து அந்த கம்பெனிக்காகவே பத்தி கொண்ட மாதிரி இருப்பாங்க sometimes okay right. So at this level, strategy is not concerned with the details of SBUs. What do you mean by SBUs? Please try to recall everything. Strategic business unit, competitive strategy, or the directions and methods. Rather, the concern is overall strategic direction. Okay? You're not going particularly one by one. You are going to discuss everything. Okay? So corporate goals and objectives follow from the mission and growth ambition of the corporation. They represent the quantum of the growth. Yes, we are actually measuring, right? Okay, we are actually measuring. That's why we call this as a measurement process. how we are going to achieve giving a proper time frame. In the time fill because we need to have the goal, right? See, first we started with mission, then leading to vision, then we have, sorry, started with vision, leading to mission, then we are talking about goals and objectives. When we talk about goals and objectives, we have to give some time frame and we have to discuss. So we'll go with what is the firm characteristics and how it has been helpful for projecting our growth. Characteristics means what? Features. What do you mean by that? Capability. Okay, how far I'm capable of that. Okay. So what you do is you go for objective setting process. So you're taking to the next level. And when you talk about the objective, you'll check for all the major decisions of the firm, and also you check for what is the organization performance at each level, whether it's realized or not, because you are checking the performance. It should be realized. Okay. So you have to convert these objectives into what part? Strategic vision into okay, performance targets. Okay. So you call this as yardstick. And please highlight. I was searching for this word only. Objectives as yardstick because through the objectives only we measure. Measure பண்றதுதான் நம்ம இந்த time frame குள்ள வரதான் பார்ப்போம். So they're called as a yardsticks. Yardsticks means measuring tool. So it's called as a measuring tool over here. Okay. Objectives are called as a measuring tool. Okay. So managers they go for using the objective setting exercise as a this was I was telling as a tool for truly stretching and yeah please highlight. Something we called as strategic fit and strategic stretch. Discuss funny again. Please try to recall. Something we call as strategic fit and strategic stretch. What do you mean by strategic fit is, as of me, what is my current capability? I will fit to that. Okay. And I do that strategically. But I may be this at this point, I may be at this level. But in future, what is going to happen? Definitely, I will grow. Okay. If I grow, is it possible that I can stretch it? Yes, my resources are available to stretch it. Okay. So I'm perfectly capable of stretching, which means what? It's called as strategic stretch. So how you can do this? Obviously using the objective. அதனால முதல்ல என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா objective எல்லாம் மத்த முன்னாடி vision and mission fix பண்ணுங்க. அப்பதான் தெரியும் நீங்க என்ன பண்ண போறீங்க. And you deliver big gains in performance, pushing an enterprise to be more inventive, yes, obviously creativity, etc. Exhibit some energy in improving both its financial performance and also its business vision, market vision, etc. Okay. So now comes the question. Is that objective is only for one level of the organization or the top level of the organization alone? No, it is needed at all organization level. Should not stop with top management's establishing the company-wide performance targets alone. So it need to be broken out into performance targets for each separate business unit, for each product line, for each functional department, and not only that, please highlight. Usually ஒரு லிஸ்ட் தானே அப்படியே பார்த்துக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு நினைக்காதீங்க. Please highlight individual work unit also has to be focused. Individual job, individual project, everything. But what happens is usually when we fix the objective or target, company's performance cannot reach full potential unless we combine everything and we check what is the desired. Okay, which means what? Combine our work for no long. So rather than support than conflict. So we try to avoid this conflict and negate the achievements. So this is about stage one. Should I take over? Stage two. Yes. What's stage two? Environment analysis. Usually when we say environment analysis, we alternately use this term called as environmental scanning, relating directly to external environment. Whereas if we talk about organizational analysis, I'm talking about the controllable factors of my organization. I'm talking about the internal organization. Okay. So alternate name, alternate word called as diagnostic phase. And a complete scan running, analyze running the diagram. So we have two types of analysis. One is this one and one is the other. So when we talk about external, please try to recall pestle analysis. Okay, we are talking about external, right? External means completely pestle is covering all the factors, economic, social, technological, market, and other forces. What are the other forces? Takun sono. What is five forces model? Okay, bargaining power of supplier, etc., etc. Okay. See, usually when we talk about external, we are talking about pestle analysis. But apart from pestle analysis, we have other forces pushing us to do that one. Okay. So which affects its functioning. The firm's external environment is dynamic and uncertain nature. So the management systematically analyze various elements to determine opportunities and threats. SWOT analysis. Okay, opportunities and threats. See, strength and weakness are internal. Opportunities and threats are external. So when we talk about environmental scanning, you are going to highlight three areas. One is pestle. So it's not mentioned as pestle. You can mention it in the exam, no issues. Okay. One is pestle. One is POTUS, five forces model. Okay. And the other one is SWOT analysis. You can focus only on ONT. Okay. Because SNW will discuss in the next study. Shall I continue? So when we talk about the second analysis, organizational analysis, it's including a review of what is my financial resources I have, technological resources, what is my productive capacity, marketing and distribution effectiveness, R&D, HR skills, and just so on. It has a big list. So probably if I check on all these things, it will be definitely revealing my strength and weakness, which could be matched with threats and opportunities in the external environment. Okay. Probably I remember I have discussed this earlier. When we talk about strength and weakness, opportunities and threats, usually we'll mix like this. Strength should be maximized, opportunities should be maximized. Which means what? I have to maximum try to utilize that opportunity. So I'll name this as one. So this criteria which we follow is max criteria. This is funny again or fast transform. I analyze my organization's capability and I find this is the weakness. Then weakness and there's an opportunity outside. So what you have to do? Weakness you have to minimize and opportunity you have to maximize. So this is second. I check my organization and I see that's a strength, but there's a threat outside the environment. So I have to go for this third strategy. So which one I'm combining for? Strength and threats, which means strength, maximize, weakness, minimize. Then the alternate one. Okay, which one here? This one or this one? Sorry, this one is which one? Weakness, yes, sorry. Weakness and threat. So this is the fourth one. Weakness I minimize and also this minimize. So when I go for this level, before going for the third level, this will be my concept right. Which ones of strategy I have to, on which criteria I have to do the strategy. Okay, either max or min max or what. Is it okay? So that's why when we say SWOT analysis, we'll discuss everything. Okay, SWOT. Shall I go for the third one? Formulating strategy. The first step in strategic formulation, what you do? You develop directly, not go for selecting one. Plan A, plan B, plan C மாதிரி strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3 சொல்லிட்டு select பண்ணி வச்சிருப்பீங்க. அதெல்லாம் என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? ஒன்று தான் select பண்ணுவீங்க. So you go for different alternatives. You check for organization strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And the second step, you will deeply analyze. Analyze. Please highlight. Deeply analyze. So you choose the most appropriate one. For this alone, you go for that four angles, max or min or whatever. So when you go for different or several alternatives, first thing, beautiful question, should the company continue in the same business? See, இருக்கிற business நான் grow பண்றதுக்காக strategy யூஸ் பண்ணுங்கிறது ஒரு ஆங்கிளா இருக்கலாம். பட் இருக்கிற சேம் பிசினஸ்ல இருக்கணும், I have to shift up. And not only on the same business, that they have to carry out the same volume of activities. First, secondly, if we continue in the same business, so probably we are ruling out the cases. First one, you're checking whether you're going to stay in the same business or shift it. Second one, if you're staying in the same business, then you have to expand it or you have to establish the new units, expanding the existing units or establish the new units. Again, or you can acquire other units. See, three angles for expanding the existing unit or establishing new units or acquiring other units. What do you mean by acquiring other units? Horizontal integration. Okay, probably if you want, you can make a note and talk about horizontal integration. Okay, so there are three alternatives. So you choose one. Third step, if we should diversify, sometimes it happens, same business, oh, I'm in a so here is same business or other business. If it is other businesses, you're diversifying from your home, okay? So if you diversify into related areas or unrelated, which means concentric diversification or is conglomerate diversification. Should it get out of an existing business fully or partially? Yes, beautiful point. இதை நீங்க யோசிக்கலன்னா எங்கேயாவது மிஸ் பண்ணுவீங்கன்னா as an organization I'm telling, okay, not exam point of view I'm telling. See, you're running an organization, you have done with step 1, step 2 and step 3. Now you have to check. You're planning to diversify. Okay, you're planning to diversify, but I'm already in an existing business. How far I'm going to continue that existing business? Example, LG Mobiles. See, you're exiting from the existing business means what you have to do? Really, or partially exiting. Okay. So all these are designed as how already we have done this stability strategy or growth or expansion strategy, or also you're leaving away and coming on, which means retrenchment strategy. If a company is combining all these three alternatives, it will be called as combination strategy. Okay. Fourth one, implementation of strategy. Yes, actually, when we talk, see, now only we're going to chapter 5. Okay, learning Kadapa Museum. Only chapter 5. So, when we're going for implementation and execution, these are actually, implementation is action oriented. So, operations oriented activity, while you need to shape the performance of core business activities in a strategic support manner. Please, முடிஞ்சா இதை அப்படியே decide பண்ணிடுங்க. அப்படியே உச்ச மாதிரி பண்ணிடுங்க. Okay. It is more demanding and not time consuming part. It will take a lot of time because each and everything matters here. Each and everything has to be properly planned. And to convert strategic plans into actions and result, a manager must be able to direct who? Manager. Which manager? All the level of managers. Okay. They should direct organizational change. They should motivate the people, build and strengthen companies' competencies and competitive capabilities. Fifth pointer, create a strategic supportive work climate and meet or keep the performance targets. So 6 points will be involved. So if you're going to convert into actions and results, you should be doing all these 6 points. So how many points we have? 6 points. Okay. So what happens in most of the situations is we'll go for these principal aspects. So usually because they are implementing, right? ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಎவ்வளೋ budget ಇದು ಮಾಡೋದು. So you develop budgets. Okay. Good things. ಇದು was starting. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬರೋ. So when it comes to starting, it's not just like really exercising knowledge on this. Actually, building and strengthening the supporting competencies and everything is needed. Okay. Then ensure that policies and operating procedures are clear. Okay. Then you go for best known practices because they have to do for continuous improvement. You have to check which practice will be helpful. Then you go for installing information and operating systems. And then you go for motivating the people. Then create a company culture and work climate. Then you go for bringing this internal leadership quality, exerting the bringing out the leadership. Okay, to drive implementation forward and keep improving strategy execution. When the organization is encountering any blocks or stumbling blocks in a Padantarila next term, so you're stuck somewhere or you're sensing any weakness, then management has to see that they are addressed and rectified quickly. So when you talk about good strategy execution, it creates strong fits. See, this is what I was telling you. Strong fits between strategy and organization capability. Not only between organization and organization capability, also with strategy and reward structure, also with strategy and internal operating system, and not only that, also with strategy and works climate and culture. Is it okay? Fine. Shall I take over? Fifth one, strategic evaluation and control. It's the final stage. So when you're asked to write this question on strategic evaluation and control, you can highlight this word, final stage. It will evaluate the company's progress. Not only that, it will assess the impact of new external development. Yes, beautiful, right? In the stage two control, external analysis and organization capability. Not only there we stand, we have to check over here also. Something might have changed outside. திடீர்னு ட்ரம்ப் வந்து எக்கச்சக்கமா ஏத்துறாரு திடீர்னு வந்து நம்ம ஜிஎஸ்டி இறங்குது என்னென்னமோ நடக்குது we have to check on it. We have to have keen eye on it, making corrective adjustment, and definitely this becomes a triggering point for designing. Please highlight, if you check all these things, now you have to decide whether you are going to continue the same vision objectives or you're going to change it. Okay. If you're going to continue, see, everything is, see, you have not faced anything big changing. Probably நீங்க strategy craft பண்ணும்போது pros and cons பார்க்கும்போது என்ன பண்ணிருப்பீங்க probably might have decided, okay, in future this is going to be okay, I'm ready for that. But unexpected change has occurred in the economy. So what you have to do? You have to clearly decide. கொஞ்ச நாள் வெயிட் பண்ணி பார்க்கலாம். No, it's not the time to wait. Okay, you have to take immediate action. So whether you're going to continue or not, you have to decide. So whether you're going to continue or change what? Change what? Company's vision, objectives, strategy, and or strategy execution methods also. There are business objectives from if needed. Okay. So company's direction and strategy seems well matched to industry and competitive conditions, etc. So these are not. So that's why we say this stage 5 is very, very important. So the proper formulate பண்ணிட்டு implementation proper பண்ணணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், definitely that's not going to be helpful. Okay. So what happens is when we need this change, இப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, whenever a company encounters disruptive changes. So we have something called a disruptive change and disruptive change. Okay. Disruptive change is something is not under our thing. So it's happening external. Okay. So questions need to be raised. Question கேளுங்க. Whether we are going in the right direction. Okay, traveling along the path. If the company is experiencing a downturn in this market position or any shortfall is, then what the managers has to go, they have to check what are the causes relating to pure strategy or pure execution. Then they have to take corrective action. So company's direction, objective, strategy have to be revisited anytime with respect to what both internal and external conditions. So how they warrant. Okay. So accordingly, you go for modify. When we talk about strategy, it should be a proficient strategy. Proficient means it should be suitable in all ways. Direct English meaning sometimes it will not be helpful. Proficient strategy is effective. It is coherent with all our major components, everything put together. It's always a product of much organizational learning and is achieved unevenly, which means coming quickly in some areas and so you periodically assess, then you check what is normal and what is desirable. Then you vigilantly search. Vigilantly means we have something called as due diligence. Each and everything is followed one day after the other due diligence only. And continuously. So that's about the stages of strategic formation. Now we have to go heading by heading. Can you just go to view, please? So strategic formulation. Just a small intro because our intention is not to talk about formulation in this topic. So we just started a small intro. We go for corporate strategy. So corporate strategy involves retrenchment, expansion, and other things are all okay, right? It's a normal intro, so I'm not going line by line. Probably you might highlight this word, the game plan. Okay, you might be expecting this in a question that really directs the company towards success and is what you call as the corporate strategy. Who is doing this game plan? The top managers, CEOs and purposes. And when you go for planning, yes, please highlight எத்தனை ஸ்டார் வேணாலும் போட்டுக்கோங்க. The planning may be operational or strategic. Probably you might not only deciding to expand your business, you might be planning to expand your business. The same way how you are going to expand the operational work. Okay. So when you go for designing a strategy, you talk about the what? Operational work also. Probably you are working in a segment where you have to deliver the goods to your customers, doorstep delivery, to your customers' place. அப்போ இது ஒரு ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி எப்படி இதை வந்து நீங்க எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ண போறீங்கன்னு இருக்குல்ல தட்ஸ் ஆஃப் த ஆபரேஷன் ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி ப்ராப்ளி யூ டெவலப் ஆப் த்ரூ த ஆப் த கஸ்டமர்ஸ் வில் புக் யுவர் items or whatever goods and you're going to deliver to their place. It's not through another e-commerce platform through Flipkart or Amazon. You're not doing it, you're doing it directly. You develop your own app and link to it. Okay. So when we talk about the operational strategy, it's not directly strategic, it's operational or strategic, you say. The senior management will develop what? Strategic plans for the entire organization after evaluating strength and weakness. So who's playing the role here? The senior management. And not only that, they'll check for potential capabilities and dangers. They go for involving, gathering and allocating the resources in order to achieve the operation. But when we talk about operational plans, on the other hand, we have to say that we are checking this with middle and lower level management. See, here we are defining with corporate strategy. The implementation will be done by middle and lower management only, but not just left to them. Please try to understand it. இறங்கி வேலை செய்றது இவங்கல்ல. Please try to understand. HR, they will deal with how they are going to equip the human resources. When we talk about marketing, that department will be completely dealing with this way. See, again, we will talk about Mahindra and Mahindra. It's releasing its teaser. இது என்ன வெறும் மார்க்கெட்டிங் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் டிசைட் பண்ணிருக்கோம். ரிலீசிங் டீசர் இஸ் நாட் அன் ஈஸி ஜாப். ஒரு மாடல் வந்து வெளியில கொண்டு வரதுக்கு முன்னாடியே வந்து அந்த மாடலோட பிக்சர்ஸ் எல்லாமே வெளியே கொண்டு வரணும். அந்த தேஷத்துக்கு that much பக்கா. So who has to get involved? The operational department has to get involved. And who's designing these designs? Designing and the technical capacities, everything. எல்லாமே யார் டிசைட் பண்ணுவாங்க? Top management. See, you may say that implementation is just done by middle or lower level management. It's not that an easy job. Who has to do it? The top level management. That's why we are defining this as a part of the corporate strategy. Okay. Then continuing. So corporate strategy, we're discussing two angles. One is strategic planning and another one is operational planning. So when you talk about strategic planning, it will shape the organization and its resources first point. Second point, it will assess the impact of environmental variables, special as everything. Third one, it will take the holistic view of the organization, the complete angle. Fourth one, it will develop overall objectives. Fifth one is concerned with the long-term success of the organization. And sixth one, senior management responsibility. Okay. Let us say go for the operational side. Please highlight here we talk about the current deployment of resources. Probably when you talk about operation, the moon master, ஒரு மாசம் எப்படி நான் work பண்ண போறேன்? எப்படி பண்ண போறேன்? When you go for strategic planning, it will be completely see that's what about the holistic view. Probably in another 5 years, I have the resource today. What about another 5 years? I don't know. Whether I'm capable to gather all resources another 5 years also, then my strategy will be differently developed. Now, when you go for operational side, what happens is we are checking the current. You know, 3 months, 1 week, 1 month. அப்படிதான் போகும். So current deployment, then we'll develop how it can be done. Tactics. Tactics means what? Actions. We are not going for defining or developing the strategy. Already it's been developed in strategic planning itself. Now we'll go for how it can be executed. Okay. And third one, projects current operations into the future. And fourth one, makes modifications to the business function, but not fundamental changes. And we'll check whether this is the responsibility of the functional managers. Or not. Definitely they are responsible. At the same time, we cannot say that top managers are not responsible. Okay. So this is what they are discussing here. So I'm not going line by line. So what do you mean by strategic planning? More or less the same content. I'm not going line by line. So I request you to have a look. Probably we can talk about strategic uncertainty. Yes, we are analyzing the environment. So obviously internal and both external. But what happens here is this is not the constant one. It's dynamic and we have to continuously make a check. So what happens is it becomes uncertain. Okay. So that's why we call here as strategic uncertainty. It's not just uncertainty. We are talking about strategic uncertainty. Yeah, the word strategic uncertainty coin பண்ணிருப்பாங்கன்னா probably our strategy itself is uncertain because the environment is uncertain. That's right. Okay. So strategic uncertainty, what do you mean? So they're actually giving a small definition. It refers to unpredictability and unpredictability of future events and circumstances that may having an impact on strategic goals and objectives. Okay. So how in what way you can say this? So because of there is a change happening in the market, technology, competition, regulation, and other external factors, everything has to be considered. Then dealing with uncertainty can be challenging, and organization have to be flexible. Resilience, which means what? They have to be in action. Okay, resilience and agility to quickly respond and minimizes impact. Yeah, please highlight. இதெல்லாமே பண்றது நோ சொல்றது இல்லைன்னா ஸ்டாப் பண்றதுக்கு இல்ல minimizing the impact definitely it's going to impact your organization performance. What you have to do, you have to try to minimize. நீங்க அந்த minimize வாங்க. That's why we have to go for immediate action. Okay. So it is then manageable. Then you need to group into logical clusters and you have to follow. Okay. So first one, flexibility, can build flexibility into their strategies to quickly adopt to the changes. So the strategy defined பண்ணும்போது make it much more flexible. Okay. May not be needed now, but because of strategic uncertainty, you have to be executed. Then diversification, yes, product portfolio, markets, customer base also can reduce the impact. See, what is the intention? To reduce the impact. Okay. Third one, monitor and go for scenario planning. Have you ever heard of scenario planning? Optimistic, pessimistic பிரிப்பாங்க. Worst situationல என்னோட strategy எப்படி work ஆகும்? So that will be dealt in prawn and conla. Okay. Worst situationல எப்படி நான் என்னோட strategy effective-ஆ இருக்கும் and best situationல எப்படி இருக்கும்? Best situationல நான் தான் பண்ணுவேன். Worst situationல நம்ம strategy நல்லா இருக்கும். That's about monitoring and scenario planning. Okay. Scenario means you create different scenes. Okay. Then fourth one, building resilience, which means how you can go for resilience means how we can effectively execute it. Okay, how we can go for strengthening the operational process, financial flexibility, and risk management capabilities and all. And fifth one, collaboration and partnership. Okay, it's not only you can execute it; you have to collaborate with your customers, suppliers, partners, and everything. You have to pool resources accordingly. You have to share this, gain access to new markets and technology. So this is a beautiful point. Yeah, இது வரைக்கும் நான் நம்ம ஆர்கனைசேஷன் என்னோட ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி அப்படிதான் பார்த்தோம். But here we'll go with collaboration and partnership. Sometimes you have to go like not for make decision, for buying decision, relying on the third party manufacturer. Okay. So when there is something uncertain, what is the impact going to happen? Okay. See, all the events are not going to have an uncertainty. Only the potential events which might be affecting directly my business will affect. Probably if we go for external analysis, ட்ரம்ப் வந்து ஒரு டெசிஷன் எடுத்துட்டாரு. அது இந்தியா எவ்வளவு தூரம் அஃபெக்ட் ஆகுதுன்னா, இந்தியால எனக்கு ரொம்ப அஃபெக்ட் ஆகுது. So it's potential only, but we have to check not only me affected, everybody are affected. Everybody are affected means everybody has to take immediate change. அப்ப என்னோட காம்படிட்டர் எவ்வளவு ஃபாஸ்டா இருக்கணும் அதை விட ஃபாஸ்டா நான் எடுக்க ட்ரை பண்ணும். ஓகே, ஸோ could have an impact on present, proposed and even potential business, and there may be a trend toward okay natural foods. I don't know what's this word. Okay, natural may present. Okay, example. அதான் பாக்குறேன். See, I don't have this continuity of the page இல்ல. I'm just thinking, what is this food thing? Something okay. Natural foods probably replacing with juices, other things. இப்பெல்லாம் நிறைய பேர் டயட்னு சொல்ல சோறை சாப்பிடுறது. நாங்க பிரியாணி சாப்பிடுவோம், சோறு தான் சாப்பிடுவோம். Okay. So the impact will depend on the importance of impacted SBU of the firm. So you may be having different SBUs accordingly. And so SBUs are more important than this. So it's a normal part. So you go for sales, profits, and cost. Shall I take over? Or you need a break? So strategic implementation. So we say here the strategic implementation is nothing but a managerial exercise. We are not, the manager's job is not to just to define or choose the strategy, but instead they have to put into actions. The chosen strategy put into actions is what we call as a managerial exercise. That's what we call as strategic implementation. So probably when we say strategic implementation is actually translating a strategic decision into action. Based on what? The strategic choice which you have done. That's why we define this term called as presupposing. Because you want to know this is the result you are expecting in the future. So you're presupposing the decision. And how you do it? By feasibility study and acceptance. உங்களுக்கு தெரியும் future இதான் பண்ணணும்னு. So sometimes the organization might be handling new activities or might be sometimes training personals, HRs and devising appropriate systems also. So you can bring the relationship between strategic formulation. So you need to understand strategic formulation and strategic implementation is different because both requires different skill. Okay. Sometimes strategic formulation seems to be an easier job. Okay, mental skill and like experience and other things will be helpful. But what about implementation is you need to know what is the current action. See, because of AI, everything is changing now. Okay. So if strategy formulation is sound and implementation is excellent, then definitely this is going to be a win-win strategy. Okay. So probably we'll go for this square boxes here. This horizontal line talks about implementation and this vertical line talks about formulation. Formulation, I can say sound formulation or flawed. Flawed means containing errors. You will not know it's containing errors. எப்ப தெரியுமா தெரியும்? உண்மையா தெரியும். Implementation, weak and excellent. See, if you go for excellent implementation and sound formulation, that is square B, then only we can expect for win-win strategy. Either you are in A or C or D, definitely it's not going to be helpful. So what you have to do is you have to convert to B. If you are in A, you have to convert to B. If you are in C, you have to convert to B. If you are in D, you have to convert to B. For example, if you are in A, which means what? Formulation of strategy is sound, but implementation is சொதப்பலா இருக்கு. அப்ப என்ன பண்ணணும்? Obviously, you have to make the implementation excellent. Okay. So when you find that you have formulated in a better way, but implementation is not well enough, probably that might be because of different factors. Okay. So you have to check that one also. Okay. So we'll go here. They are clearly defining or describing square, box, A and D and so on. So with respect to A, probably they are giving the nature and they are saying because this is because of the various factors, probably lack of experience. Startups, starting. It will not be helpful for them. How they are going to implement is not easier for them, even though the strategy is sound. Lack of resources or something. The go for square D, obviously it's somewhat the same. Okay, so you have to go for improving the implementation skill. So square D is coming over here. This is weak, not weak, flawed formulation and excellent implementation. Beginning தப்பா இருந்துச்சுன்னா implementation என்ன excellent பண்ணாலும் தப்புதான். So you have to improve this one, which means you have to make the strategy formulation something. Okay, that's about square D. Likewise, we discussed squares seams. Okay. Continuing. So when we say strategy, always we say it's like we have to plan for a long period for the strategy to execute, implement and all. But still remember, strategy is not directly equal to saying long-term plan. Okay, so probably we are talking about the future and what is going to be in the future and other changes and all, but that's just don't go for equating this with a long-term plan because many things will be changing and we have to accordingly take the changes, which means we have to do. See, can find the line over here, modify it, take it to actions. So when we talk about the organization is lacking in strategic direction, then we have to take what are the things stressing us. Probably like we are focusing on, or we are going for cost cutting, or we are going to shred unprofitable divisions and all. So we are going to focus on two things. One is efficiency and one is effectiveness. Okay, you can please join now. One is efficiency and another one is effectiveness. Efficiency is bringing the relationship between inputs and outputs. Usually we'll go for short time. So usually we use the efficiency as operational line. Okay, or input output மாத்துறதுக்கு என்ன பண்றோம் operational line. So I may write it over here, operational line. Whereas if you talk about effectiveness, it's content how the organizational goals will be concerned, will be attained. Okay, including the desired competitive position. Okay, that is management time. So we're going to compare both efficiency and effectiveness. While efficiency is essentially introspective, effectiveness, so responsibility of efficiency lies with whom? See, it's operational in nature, so who is responsible for that? Operational managers. Whereas if you talk about the efficiency, the top management has to be responsible. So we'll go for this box, for this grid. How the strategic formulation is done. Effective or ineffective? How the operational management is done, effective or efficient. I should use efficient or inefficient. Both are effective. Then you try, which means what? You will manage. You will attain the objectives alone. But what happens here? Die slowly, which means what? Even though operational side is efficient, but it's not effective in formulation. See, there we saw square A, B, C, D, right? There it was like A, B, C, D. இங்க அப்படியே கொஞ்சம் உல்டாவா இருக்கும். See, here is actually B. Okay, அது எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு சேமா போட்டுருந்தலாம் எப்படி மாத்தான்னு தெரியல. Okay, so somewhat same. Okay, okay, so let me continue directly. Here, this one fourth is dying quickly. So almost it's not it's inefficient and everything goes away, cannot formulate properly. Then obviously you are about to close the organization. Dodos Mariela. So just describing the lines here. So yeah, please highlight me. What do you mean by effectiveness is doing the right thing? By what do you mean by efficient is to do the thing right? Okay, to do the right thing and to do the thing right. Correcta பண்றது இல்ல, கரெக்டான விஷயத்தையும் பண்றது இல்ல. That's what is. Okay, this is not normal. So this advantage may be the form of okay. So if you talk about the returns for shareholders, we'll talk the form of dividends. நிறைய எம்ப்ளாயிஸ்க்கு சம்பளமே தராம இருக்காங்க. So for employees in terms of wages and for continued support from suppliers for goods and service. For consumers point of view, satisfaction. Government point of view, legal எல்லாமே பண்ணுங்க compliance. And for society point of view, responsible behavior, CSR. Okay. And obviously, you have to check with the pressure groups and so on because you have to sustain the competition, right? So that's what they discuss. So even the most technically perfect strategic plan will serve little purpose if it is not implemented effectively. So it's a non-normal path, not going line by line. So how we can achieve in a better way? So you define a perfect plan and then you execute in a perfect way. Okay, so I'm not going line by line. I want to highlight this lines. You may get it as sports question. Successful strategy formulation does not guarantee successful strategy implementation. So obviously you have to sit and work out how you can. So now let us go for strategic formulation and implementation, how it is being differentiated. So when we say strategic implementation is fundamentally different and you have to summarize in what way it is different. So let us go and summarize here. It includes formulation. It includes planning, decision making, in developing organization strategic goals and plans. See, formulation. அப்ப நீங்க என்ன plan பண்ணுவீங்க? Strategic vision, goals, plans. Whereas if you go for implementation means how are you going to implement? Which means what are the resources you have? Pull all the resources and make it to work. Okay. So it involves all those means related to execute the strategic plans. So it's about executing. First point. Second point, when you say strategy formulation, is placing the forces before actions. ஆக்ஷன்ல மாத்ததுக்கு முன்னாடி என்னென்ன அவைலபிள்னு செக் பண்ணோம் இல்லையா? தட்ஸ் அபவுட் த செகண்ட். ஓகே. Whereas implementation is managing the process, please highlight. That's what we say. Implementation should also be excellent. ஓகே. சரி, இந்த ப்ரோசஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கு. அதனால தான் இந்த ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜியை நான் பிளான் பண்ணேன். அப்ப இந்த ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி பிளான் பண்ணிருக்கேன்னா என்னால அது பண்ண முடியும்னு அர்த்தம் இல்ல. அப்ப நான் மேனேஜ் பண்ணணும்ல அந்த ப்ரோசஸ். பியூட்டிஃபுல் பாயிண்ட். And third one, yes, this is an entrepreneurial activity because it's involving mental capacity, experience, and other things. Whereas if you go for the implementation side, it's just a administrative accounting. Proper administration பண்ணினாலே போதும். Fourth one, yes, working on effectiveness. It's working on efficiency. Fifth one, you need intellectual and rational process. Okay, because you need to take immediate decisions. அப்போ வந்து டக்குன்னு யோசிக்க தோணும். You should not go for, see, obviously when you talk about organization, you form a board, you held a board meeting and follow it. But still, it's a rational process. You cannot take a long time to execute. Okay, whereas this is just an operational process. Sixth, requires coordination among few individuals is enough. But whereas if you go for this one, you need to go for obviously individuals are, but many individuals, middle and lower levels will be. Seventh one deals with initiative, logical, conceptual intuitiveness, and analytical skill. Whereas eighth one, motivational and leadership traits. ஆப்ரேஷன்ல நம்மள கரெக்டா பண்ண வைக்கணும். கரெக்டா பண்ண வைக்கிறது என்ன பண்ணலாம்? ஹெச்ஆர் ஆங்கிள் வந்து இன்சென்டிவ்ஸ் கொடுக்கலாம், ரெமுனரேஷன் கொடுக்கலாம், ப்ரொமோஷன் கொடுக்கலாம், கிரெடிட் கொடுக்கலாம். ஓகே. அண்ட் எய்த் ஒன் இஸ் நார்மல் strategic formulation precedes strategic implementation. Your strategic implementation follows strategic formulation. Okay. When we say strategic formulation, the concepts and tools, it's actually not much differing. Large, small. See, everyone they have to go for the 5 steps. But large organization, the technology you use might be differing. The technology, the experience you gain is somewhat different. Okay. So, very substantially among different types. So, strategic formulation is the same. Whereas if you go for strategic implementation, it varies substantially among different types and size of organization. Probably, when you talk about implementation, you have to talk about altering sales territories if you want to target a different market. You might be adding, see, this is just an illustrative list, not the points, okay? Adding new departments. Probably sometimes you might be closing the facilities, you might be hiring new employees, you might be changing an organization's pricing strategy, you might be developing financial budgets, developing new employee benefits, establishing cost control procedures might be on point. See, the just to list the illustrative list, and even the advertising matters here. Building new facilities, probably training the new employees, okay, transferring managers among divisions, usually this will be done. Okay, the manager equip பண்றதுக்காக இல்ல, one manager probably might have got different skill and he will be put in another new division or somewhere and he will be executing his skill over there. So under the new employees they'll get trained. Okay, actually training is different and making them learn is different. அப்போ ஒரு well versed, well skill developed manager போட்டீங்கன்னா he will be easy to manage everything. Okay, and building a better management information system. So totally we have 13 points over here. So 13 points வச்சு நீங்க என்ன பண்ணலாம்? Strategic implementation vary ஆகும்னு சொல்லி. Actually, this is not exactly 13 points. 1 or 2 மிஸ் பண்ணாலும் பரவாயில்ல, 1 or 2 ஆட் பண்ணாலும் பரவாயில்ல. அதுக்காக மிஸ் பண்ண வேண்டாம். ஃப்ளோன்னு சொல்றேன். So these type of activities differ greatly among manufacturing, service and government organizations. So when you go for strategic management division by division to different phases, probably you have to properly go for this linking. This actually they are introducing this heading linkages. Okay. 2 types of linkages will be there. One is forward linkages. Forward linkages means what? You see, in this last line we were discussing, right? Strategic formulation precedes strategic implementation. You are talking about strategic implementation. Whether based on formulation or based on the formulation based on implement பண்றா. இது வந்து backwardல பார்க்கிறது. Now I have strategic formulation. Strategic formulate பண்ணி வேணா implement பண்ண முடியுமா? அப்போ implement பண்ற மாதிரி ஒரு organization structure மாதிரி. First is forward linkage. Forward means towards the forward angle you look. Backward means towards the backward angle. So backward linkages you are talking about strategic implementation. Okay, I can go directly over here. So we have 2 types of linkages. One is forward, one is backward. Okay. When you say forward, you are talking about formulation. When you say backward linkages, what was the formulated strategy? Am I implementing the same thing? Okay. So this is talking about implementation. Okay. So strategic formulation is primarily an entrepreneurial activity based on decision and other things, whereas implementation is an administrative task based. So when you focus on the 2 linkages, the forward linkages the different elements will be there. Okay, how you're going to formulate and other things and also when you're focusing especially on what? Formulation. So when you focus on formulation, what you have to do? Then the first step, அது பிறகு என்ன நடக்குது அதெல்லாமே பார்க்கணும். So probably I'll go for this figure. You remember the very first figure, David ஓடது? Can you go over there and come back? See here. You need not turn over, you just refer that page. See, when I talk about forward, okay, which means I'm at this stage. Will you kindly join, please? I'm at this stage. So I need to check how far this can be implemented, this can be evaluated. So when I go for formulation, each and everything will be done. Okay. Next step is the but when I talk about implementation, I have to check what happened over here. See, so many things has to be followed. Okay, please link in this way. So shall I continue? Yeah. So there may be different elements in strategic formulation, starting where? Normal exam, starting where? From objective setting through objective setting involves vision, everything put together. So in simple terms, we say is objective setting. Okay. Through environmental and organization appraisal, then strategic alternatives will be done. Then you give a selection strategy. Okay, you make a choice. That's what we call a strategic choice, and determine that course of action which can be adopted. With the formulation of new strategies or reformulation of existing strategies, many changes may take place. For instance, organizational structure has to undergo a change in the light of the requirements of modified or new strategies. Okay. Also, the style of leadership also has to be adopted. Whereas if you go for backward linkages, is determined by the formulation the backward. அப்படி ஒரு step prior போயிடுங்க is determined by the formulation of strategies and this formulation process is affected by what factors related to implementation. So formulation base பண்ணி தான் நீங்க implement பண்ணணும். Okay, so probably depends on the choice of strategy, what you have made, what is the present structure of resources, how you are going to combine some additional efforts has to be done. So such, see you're doing some additional efforts, right? So such incremental changes over a period of time take over varied issues to be. So probably you're planning the future. So linkage is over, we have to go for issues. What the issues might be faced? See, when we talk about strategy, we have to talk about formulation. Who is doing it? A strategist is doing it. Who's a strategist? ஒரு பர்சன் ஹூஸ் ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிஸ்ட் இப்பெல்லாம் ஏஐனா ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிஸ்டா இருக்கு ஏதாவது உங்களுக்கு தெரியல என்ன பண்ணலாம் ஏஐ கேளுங்க சொல்லிடுது ஓகே what do you mean by the strategist whom do you call this person the strategist means usually the top CEOs or top managers of my organization or else there may be a person particular person who might be appointed as a strategist but if you think about a person separately appointed strategist na ரொம்ப காஸ்ட்லி தான் இதெல்லாம் என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா மேக்ஸிமம் அவங்களே மேனேஜ் பண்ணிப்பாங்க பட் தேர் ஆர் சம் ஆர்கனைசேஷன் தே டிஃபைன் ஒன் பர்டிகுலர் பர்சன் ஹூஸ் ரோல் இஸ் கம்ப்ளீட்லி டீலிங் ஆன் திஸ் ஓகே லைக் மிச்ச ஆப்ரேஷன்ஸ்லாம் போக மாட்டாங்க கம்ப்ளீட்லா இதை பத்தி தான் டீல் பண்ணுவாங்க அதுக்காக வச்சுப்பாங்க ஸோ ஹேஸ் டு பிரிங் அ வைட் ரேஞ்ச் ஆஃப் நாலேஜ் skills attitudes and abilities these are the qualities of a strategist okay so you need to know how the strategist abilities may be there to allocate the resources design organizations formulate the policies and provide leadership okay. So what are the things you have to follow this the strategic plan will tell us how we are going to put into action. Do not lead to action. Please highlight. Strategies, they not lead to action. You have to take it to put it into action. Okay. So statement of intent like what way the mission. Statement of intent mission. So how we are going to reach there. Okay. It has to be activated through implementation. Now strategies lead to formulation of different kinds of programs. Probably when you talk about program, it might be including goals, policies, procedures, rules. What are the steps you're going to put into actions and everything? Okay. So programs lead to formulation of projects. And when you say project, it's a highly specific program for which the time schedule will be given and cost will be particularly predetermined. And you need to know how much the funds can be allocated based on capital budgeting. Then you have to go for R&D program, complete and organization to achieve specific and limited objective within a specified time. Time schedule will be set. Okay. Whereas if you go for implementation, it's not limited to formulation of plans, programs, and projects. Probably when you say projects, you require the resources. How are you going to execute? After resources have been provided, it's essential to see whether the proper organization structure is designed, systems are installed, functional policies are devised, and various behavioral inputs are provided so that plans may work. So how are you going to do this? எப்படி பண்ண போறோம்னா, it's actually sequential manner. I want to highlight this word. Sequential means, what do you mean by sequential? You have to do one by one. இல்லையா? Sequence means first step, second step, third step, so on. But actually, what they say is it's actually looks like sequential, but ரெண்டு step மூணு step தான் சேர்த்து பண்ணணும். ஒவ்வொரு step முடிஞ்ச பிறகு தான் பண்ணுறது. Then procedural implementation, resource allocation, structural implementation, functional implementation, and behavior implementation. இது வரைக்கும் நம்ம implementation தானே பார்த்தோம். Implementationக்குள்ள அவ்வளோ implementation. Okay. What do you mean by project? Just I'll give two lines. It's not detailed discussed, but to have more comfort on this topic, I'll just give some two lines at least. When you say project implementation, we have told us this is the project. Okay, this is the strategy, which means you have to implement it. Which means what? You have see you have three or four projects. You are selecting this project can be given priority. So project is implemented. If we want to know procedure implementation, who has to do the job? Okay. Next is, are the resources available? See, resources available in the implement பண்ணணும். So resources available, so you allocate the resources. See, one project is not being done by one department or one group or one person. The whole organization might be working over there. Okay, so how are you going to allocate the resources? So today morning I just saw this ad, Mahindras and Mahindras life spaces. பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? Life space, real estate business like 1,700 crore project ல இருக்காங்க. ரெண்டு இடத்துல கட்டுறாங்க. See, I am thinking, if I talk about Mahindra and Mahindra, life space. If I am thinking about one project means, இந்த ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் 4 வருஷம் 5 வருஷம் போகும். அப்போ 4 வருஷம் 5 வருஷம் ஒரே பிசினஸ் தான் பண்ண முடியுதா? இல்ல 1,700 crore ப்ராஜெக்ட்னா சும்மாவா? They are building like flat system, society கட்டுறாங்க. அப்போ ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் போக முடியாதுல்ல. So they are doing it two places. பண்ணலாமே. Okay, so if you are planning for two places now, see here project is not about two places. Project is one project which is constructed in two places. Okay, so you have to allocate the resources. என்கிட்ட இருக்கிற manhours, என்கிட்ட இருக்கிற missions, என்கிட்ட இருக்கிற equipments ஏன்னா எல்லாமே எங்க போயிடும்? Project நடக்கிற இடத்துக்கு போயிடும். So how am I going to allocate? ஒன்றும் இல்லை, you might have seen the building construction. இந்த கான்கிரீட் மிக்சர் வரும். ஒரே ஒரு கான்கிரீட் மிக்சர் இருந்தால் அங்கே போயிடுச்சுன்னா இங்கே என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க? So they have to develop accordingly. They have to check whether concrete mixtures are available throughout. Okay, then you have to go for resources and structural implementation. What do you mean by structural authority? Who is responsible at which level? Who is going to take the accountability and all? Then functional level, department wise, and behavior, individuals. எல்லாமே சேர்த்து பார்க்கணும். So sequence does not mean each of the done should be done one after another. They can be performed in any manner. There can be overlapping and changes in any order can be done. It's not like you have to do this first and do that first. Resource இருக்கிறது allocate பண்ணி ப்ராஜெக்ட் இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணணும். முதல்ல வந்து யார் எதுக்கு ரெஸ்பான்சிபிலிட்டின்னு பார்த்துருவோம். அதுக்கு பிறகு வந்து நம்ம ரிசோர்ஸ் அலோகேட் பண்ணிக்கலாமே. சரி, உங்க ஆர்கனைசேஷன் எது ஃபிளெக்சிபிளோ அந்த. And when we talk about almost all the implementations will be done, but when we talk about particularly smallest organization, all this implementation may not be necessary. ஏன்னா இருக்கிற ரிசோர்ஸ் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எல்லாமே கவர் ஆயிடும். Okay, so I'm not going line by line this one. Okay, so you can just have a glance. This is not normal now, so I'm not going line by line. Yeah, I just focus on this one. Major external opportunities and threats should be clear. Okay, they have to be very clear. Implementation வந்துட்டாங்க, evaluation clear ஆகணும். And managers and employees should question, and that question should be answered satisfactorily. Okay, so top down flow of communication is essential. So this was my focus. See, operation planning is not only involved with bottom level, it's also involved with top level managers here. So there should be a proper downflow communication for developing the bottom up. Beautiful line. So this and all is on. They have to develop competitive focus on all hierarchical levels. Every employee should be able to benchmark her or his works. It's a challenge for strategists. Yes, definitely. அது வந்து ஆர்கனைசேஷன் குரோ ஆகும். நான் என்ன ஆவேன் அப்படின்னு கேட்கணும் இல்லையா? And first should provide training for both managers and employees to ensure that they have and maintain the skills necessary for the business. So that's about 5.2 completely done. So 5.3, I'll continue in the next one.